Thank you.
Okay, we are live. Thank you, Anita. Welcome everybody to the April 22nd Downtown Advisory Board meeting. Due to COVID, we're doing this live on Zoom still, so I can't wait until we're back in person one of these days. But opening exercises, shall we take roll call? Okay.
Yes, take roll. Take roll.
Yeah, Aaron Turpinning.
Here.
Linda Nishioka.
Present.
Brad Compton.
Here.
Tyson Giza.
Here.
Josh, okay, here. Vincenzo Maduri. Not here. He likes to, maybe he'll come by soon. Scott McLeod.
Here.
Jordan Truitt.
You'll be here late.
Okay. And last but not least, Charles Weathers.
I'm here.
Charles is in the house. Okay. Well, shall we move forward to approval of the agenda with the following change? So I would entertain a motion for that.
What's the change?
Yeah, what's the change?
Well, Anita sent it out. It's basically requesting that the information report on homeless efforts be shared prior to the action items. Gretchen has a limited amount of time, and so we're just readjusting that on our agenda.
So
Sounds good.
So D will become A.
Oh,
no.
Vincenzo is in the house.
Okay.
In
Yes.
the house.
So, do you hear a motion?
I approve recommend the agenda with the change of citywide homeless effort with Gretchen moved to number 1.
Second.
Aaron seconds. All those in favor say aye.
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 And not say nay. Motion carries. And we need to move on to approval of the minutes from our previous meeting on March 11th. And I will entertain a motion unless there's any questions.
If there's no questions, I move that we approve the minutes from the March 11th meeting.
Second.
Aaron seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Not in favor, nay. Motion carries. Wonderful. So we can move forward with the information report on city homeless by Gretchen Bennett. The floor is yours, Gretchen.
Thank you. And thank you everybody for accommodating my schedule today. I appreciate it. And my name is Gretchen Bennett. I've been working for the city about 8 years, and last year was assigned the topic of homelessness. And the very first thing I would like to say to you is a very sincere and passionate apology, particularly for the area along Liberty Road next to the Rite Aid store. I'm just absolutely concerned, as I know everyone is. It's an unacceptable and untenable situation. It's not livable for anybody. And so I just want you to be aware of what I think about that, and how very much my heart goes out to everyone that's trying to navigate that part of our town. As well as for the people who are living there in really serious, with really serious situations. We've been sending everybody we know there to talk with people, to compel different choices, to compel different decisions, obviously ineffectively. We're also working with the owners on cleaning and trying to get to a really regular cleaning schedule. And we're problem solving a couple of other ideas as well. I'm not giving up on that area. We were just discussing some policy changes that might be able to happen at the state level this morning that might make an impact in the area. I just want you to be aware that's certainly a strong area of concern. I don't mean to not think about all of downtown, but I wanted to begin there because I know that's been an area of significant issue and concern. Generally, I thought I'd offer a few comments on updates of what the city is doing to address these issues. A couple of things on the horizon. And then, of course, welcome your discussion and questions. I want to be respectful of what you might be interested in. Before I do that, are there any topics right away that anybody would like to ask or make sure I cover?
So Gretchen, I have one.
Thanks.
I've tried to keep up on reading in the paper different issues on the homelessness, and clearly the Cascade Park, they have really organized themselves into keeping their issue in front of council on a regular basis. And I also would like to know if there's going to be any changes in regards to policies relating to the use of park for homeless. I think I also heard that ODOT may be changing their policies as far as allowing the homeless to be on state property. And also I know that we've had some in hotel motels. And if there's going to be any change, when that might be happening, and if there's plans in place to address that.
Thank you. Well, you asked the question of the hour. You're spot on. That's top of mind for me right now, the collection of points that you just made. Cherie is observing that we're concerned that we're about to see some significant transitions in the lives and locations of people who are unhoused in Salem right now. The city had been allowing camping in both Cascades Gateway Park and Wallace Marine Park in the undeveloped areas of those parks. And right now, the emergency declaration that allows for that would expire June 1st. And so technically then people would not lawfully be able to live in the undeveloped areas of those parks as of June 1st, unless the emergency declaration is extended. Another predictable change right now, as you know, there are a number of locations in Salem that are owned by the Oregon Department of Transportation. And currently the governor is prohibiting any sort of clearing of encampments. And so we've seen growth of areas, even in places where we've cited significant safety concerns, such as Market and I-5. I understand that as of right now, there's not a specific date or plan to change that. But I just observe and recognize, as any of us would, that this is a shifting dynamic as conditions around the pandemic changes. They haven't been clearing those as a result of during the pandemic and their adherence to CDC guidelines there. So that's possible that will change, but at this point we don't have a determined date. The other issue that Cherie brought up is that's correct. Right now we've been fortunate to be able to activate about 145 hotel rooms that have been particularly helpful for people who are medically fragile or have particular vulnerabilities. And those have been tremendous. You know, people can lock their door and have privacy and take a shower, and they've been really, really usable spaces. But that is predicted to change too, as dollars run out, as the use of hotels shifts and changes, as our economy changes with COVID. That's another predictable change. So we are preoccupied with, okay, so where will people be able, that's the question, right? So where will people be able to be? We're working on trying to establish it with partnerships with amazing nonprofits, ways to have managed operations. We're trying not to perpetuate pain that can come from making choices of just living on a sidewalk, living in an awning, living in a park without accountability or policy or rules or being asked to be held to things. We're trying to have options that have managed environments where people are able to have a sense of security and safety and participate in making progress towards outcomes and trying to be supportive of projects like that. So with the team at Church at the Park's help, for example, we were able to open some land and purchase pallet shelters, and pallet shelters just opened up a couple of April 19th. So I guess this pretty recently, and we were able to expand sheltering at that location with Church at the Park. As just an example, we're working with, Josh has been lovely to help me identify some land parcels that I'm trying to buy. I need some money. If anybody's got grant money, we're trying to identify locations, both outdoor locations that could be operated for managed strategies like pallets or organized tent camping or the vehicle camping. Another partnership with Church at the Park has been the safe vehicle camping strategy that we have invested in this year and have dollars right now in the proposed budget for next fiscal year to do some expansions with, to have small communities of managed vehicle camping. We're also looking at how to expand the indoor sheltering options. We're delighted with Union Gospel Mission's expansion. We're optimistic that a navigation center operating dollars will be funded in this year's legislative session. So we're at work on conversations to site that navigation center. And we have several other irons in the fire, if you will, on ideas for both low managed and very organized thing. It looks like one of the keys to this work is having options, because we have a diverse population out there. And so setting up as many options or locations as possible can make a difference when we're asking people to leave and where they can't be. It helps a lot to have places where people can be, given the legal landscape and given the limitations on our enforcement abilities. It makes a difference to have locations. I will also quickly mention, let's see, another thing that's just recently happened that's very helpful is the state has just awarded $5.5 million into our Regional Homeless Alliance. And those dollars are just beginning to flow in. They're going to support 10 organizations, nonprofits, 7 of which are doing work in the Salem area. You'll see expansions in a strategy called rapid rehousing, for example, that works quickly with people who are just newly becoming homeless to prevent the chronic problems that Salem has a higher than state average rate of, and getting people quickly back into housing. It'll expand the number of street outreach navigators that are out there working relentlessly with people on kind of a housing first, let's resolve issues and remove barriers and assist people with readiness to get them in. So that's going to be really good. Let's see, the city continues its commitment to awarding more than $400,000 in each year to grants to nonprofits to provide emergency assistance. And like, for example, we just identified a need for vehicle repair. If a family is in their car, the car is broken down, the city needs to come on and enforce that because they're at a location that's not allowed. We'd rather help get them to a location where they're allowed to be and where they can receive resources than just tow the car and basically take their shelter, leaving them out on the street. So we've got a project going with Northwest Human Services, for example, in those very specific situations to try to achieve some success, you know, instead of just perpetuate more completely the unsheltered issue. There's a number of other strategies as well. You know, we're working to offer tax incentive to developers to build affordable housing in our area because we continue to be very underbuilt in terms of the number of affordable units in our community, and that'll make a difference on the housing end. We're adapting building standards for single family property owners to add additional units on their properties in case that can help with the need as well. We're looking at a matrix right now that would also help us with the broader policy questions that come with citing some of these types of sheltering strategies. So you'll see that emerging. We're working through the best practices on that right now, studying other cities. A couple of things that are emerging. This garbage problem is horrible. I don't have to tell you that. And I'm really disappointed in my year so far at how little to no progress has been made. I'm just horrified at it. And I see all kinds of challenges like the companies that work with us can't hire the labor necessary. We've lost the inmate crews that used to be a tremendous resource for that. Our seasonal hiring is a microcosm of what it had been. We're seeing a number of barriers to actually being able to be on top of the garbage problem. So we've been talking with people, and there's 2 nonprofits who've emerged. Again, the nonprofit private sector community just really stepping up and have secured the ability to have tipping trucks and a volunteer base to be able to assist with garbage at some of the locations that have been really untenable. And then the folks over at Covanta Marion have agreed to receive the garbage at no charge. So we're excited to be on the cusp of implementing that project. And I'm hoping that'll be a really nice public-private partnership that'll expand our quickness with being able to clean. But the resources that we've been able to secure have not kept up with the number of priority locations where we really need to get in there and clean. It's remarkable when you think about, we have over 1,000 people basically living without garbage service, fairly disposable lifestyles with all of the to-go packaging and clothing that gets soiled from being outdoors, and then it ends up being discarded, and all kinds of issues. There's also underway work in thinking through a broader policy agenda. We really want to partner with our regional partners who work in areas of behavioral health, chemical dependency counseling, sobering, options that can really address some of the root driving causes of some of these issues, as well as some of the tools that are needed to help a person access treatments and services. So there's a policy agenda to work on that could create some statutory changes that could give us some more tools to be more effective with people who are really in a painful situation. I think that might provide something of an overview. And I know I went through a lot of topics fairly quickly, just hoping to kind of hit some high notes. I welcome your questions, or if there's any particular topics you'd like to develop out more completely, I'm happy to receive them.
So Gretchen, you mentioned 1,000 individuals that don't have trash collection available to them. You said 145 were currently in hotel rooms. If the city changes its policy to not allow camping in the parks, and if the state ODOT changes their policy, of course, not all of them would come downtown. But what's the number that we're talking about in those kind of three categories? Do you have a sense?
I don't have a good sense. The last count I got, for example, at Wallace Marine Park, if my memory serves me, it was approximately 150 tents were at Wallace Park. So that could have, 1, 2, 3 people. I'm going to guess it's probably more like 200 tents. And I would venture to guess that Cascades Park is somewhere in a similar nature of number of tents. I'm working with teams to help me do a more precise count, but I've also noticed it's a very dynamic experience. People come and go and move and change, and the number moves around, but that gives you a ballpark of the number of tents. We have to have hundreds of people on the state properties. I also don't have a good count there, but all you have to do is drive by and take a good look, or visit with some of our street outreach partners to realize there's hundreds on state property. And then, of course, the 145 hotel rooms. So you figure maybe 1 to 2 or so or more people in the hotel rooms as well. If you think about it, our annual point in time counts, our national, the counts that we participate in that give us a count of the number of people who are experiencing houselessness in the area, that generally the numbers in the past years have said you've probably got about 1,500 people, give or take. Roughly, it's hard to get an accurate number. And then you start counting down, well, how many shelter beds do we have in Salem? How many safe park spaces do we have in Salem? And, when you do, and you have a little more in the winter, because we've been able to invest in and activate our Salem warming network, thank goodness, to get people in out of the cold and save some lives in the coldest winter months. So we have more spaces in the winter. But essentially, you're looking at around 1,000 people for whom we don't have those indoor or vehicle spaces. And so they're somewhere. And right now, I think the 3 biggest places that they are is the parks and the ODOT properties and the hotels. And of course, the group at Rite Aid and all of the other locations that you're aware of. So what we're trying to do is get ahead of that with opening as many additional options as we can, working with nonprofits and others, talking with people about making good and reasonable choices about where they go next when they experience a transition, and doing our best with that. But I can't promise that we're going to have, we won't have a bed for everybody. We also will have hundreds of people for whom they're not ready for a variety of reasons, whether it's significant behavioral health, substance use, addiction issues, past trauma, significant trauma in their past, and sometimes trauma from services as they've tried to get a housing voucher, but the voucher wait lists are closed. You know, there's a number of reasons why we'll have people for whom they won't go into one of the shelters that we do have as well. And so we're going to certainly have our hands full with trying to figure out how to help people make choices that are livable for both them and for our community, that doesn't perpetuate anything that we don't want to perpetuate, and
So
yet
what
works within the
How would
reality.
how would you advise the board? I mean, the thought that, again, I know you don't set the policy, but if the parks are not open to camping, and we have a potential for 300 on the low side individuals homeless to need a place to go, and we already have 50 to 70 at Rite Aid right now. Is there anything that the board, I mean, I know Cascade Park, they've been very, very vocal, constantly vocal. The Fisher group that has, you know, Frisbee thingies out there. I mean, I've tried to keep up on it, but obviously not one location is more important than another. Not that I want them to have an issue, but downtown is very important citywide to recruit businesses and everything. And so I was just wondering if there's anything that the board should be doing. Obviously, letting property owners and businesses know, keep people informed, but is there anything else that you can think of?
Thank you. That's a great question, and several types of answers are coming to mind, so please bear with me. First of all, there's that bigger picture policy and advocacy piece, and I think it would be very helpful in each of your areas of expertise to identify and be open to locations that you think are suitable in Salem. I think it's super helpful. Like Josh in his work has identified a couple of land parcels that could really be workable. And we're trying to move down the path of being able to activate that. Ideally, we would find locations that really make sense for everyone in Salem. You know, like UGM has purchased their property and they have their land, and that's workable and managed. If we can find locations that are workable and managed and suitable, that's really a win-win for everyone in our community. And so if you're aware of anything along those lines, I'm really all ears. I've been scouring, looking for projects and locations that will work. Another thought that comes to mind is the city really needs help when it comes to the behavioral health side of things. The city itself doesn't have expertise as it relates to health. And yet I think some of our most difficult situations, people that create challenges in the downtown are people that have very significant behavioral health challenges. And we really need our expertise, our experts in those fields to help us with those things. You know, so people who operate those programs, people who open doors to allow for programs that come in, any expertise, because where we particularly need help is with behavioral health. We've had some success with our Housing First strategy that we've opened. The city houses a number of people every year, but it's when people have really deep-seated behavioral health challenges that it's really outside the city's area of expertise. Those are county and state and private sector areas of expertise, and we really need help in that area. So I would encourage that. There's also the very specific realm of work at your area of business or on your block. for example, one of the things I'm appreciating right now about Northwest Human Services, one of our federally qualified health centers, is that they have a place on their webpage, and we've also posted this on our page, where if you're seeing a person and you're thinking that outreach is needed, if somebody could come and try to address that issue, you can reach out directly to Northwest Human Services. And to the extent that resources are available, sometimes it can take a couple of hours or a few days, but they can go out and make contact with those persons and individuals and see if they can try to find a solution that will work and meet their needs. They have a street medicine approach that can be really helpful. And that's something very specifically you can do. Anything we can do to have vitality and people and use of spaces can be a very positive way of adding activities. Sometimes that has a way of making an impact as well, in ways of kind of claiming spaces with events and activities and vibrancy, and that can have a way of helping too. I don't know, I'm trying to think. There's probably a lot of answers to your question, Cherie. It's a really good one. You may all have ideas and experiences or things that you've been frustrated with that haven't worked too, but I guess that's where my mind goes. None of us want to see just a repopulation of downtown. I completely understand that.
Gretchen, this is Linda. I saw a news piece about Portland doing trash where they're actually paying with a card, so you know about it. I was thinking, wow, that might be a way to at least get some of the debris picked up. Is that something that you're looking at all, where you pay them to pick it up?
It is. We actually started testing something that we nicknamed Cash for Trash last April at the 2 parks, and we had some mixed success. We did have some really positive experiences where I think people experienced that productivity of cleaning and completing a task and received a gift card to someplace where you can purchase food or a meal. And we're continuing to do that at Cascades, and we have some mixed success with that. Yes, I've been thinking about, is there ways to expand that strategy into other locations? You're right. You have to have coordination and the funding and willing participants. And again, some folks with significant trauma or health issues aren't necessarily matched. And those are sometimes some of the areas where we have the biggest challenge. Well, but yes, I'm looking at that closely. Thank you.
Well, it seems to me that if you could find the people that could do that, sometimes that might be a start where it then encourages others to also participate in cleaning, if not just picking up mass debris. I mean, there would still need to be services that would come in and manage a more deeper clean. But it just seemed to me if you could target some people that would be, excited about doing it, then that might spread that potential for either others becoming involved or more of an awareness of those that are camping in the same area. That would be something I would wonder about.
Thank you. Yes. I can think of an example where I felt some of that infectiousness. Was talking with a woman who lived in Wallace Park that was very motivated to see all of the areas kept neatly, and was working on her area and encouraging her nearby areas to do that, and talking with me about some tools that might work. And yeah, with some of the population, I think that can really make a difference.
Yeah, good. I'm glad. That's great. I'm excited that that's something you're looking at.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I have a kind of question, comment, concern. Gretchen, I know you've heard me voice this before. As we're the Downtown Advisory Board, of course, we're concerned about the health and vitality of downtown, and that means everyone. And I guess what I've observed happening, I know you're very aware, is the services tend to get bunched together and concentrated. And, sort of north downtown, we have now we have Arches, UGM, Northwest Human Services is kind of in that area. And then, maybe the potential of a navigation center somewhere in the general vicinity. And so, which I think are all fantastic things. They're all needed. We need services, absolutely. It makes sense for them to be close. But the sort of perpetuation of concentrating our homeless populations into, little pockets and little areas. I mean, just to be honest, nobody wants garbage and all this stuff in their backyard. And so I guess I want to reiterate the concern and maybe ask the question. The concern is that we concentrate the shelters or outdoor spaces into one side of our town or one area of the city. And the concern is that it's not equitable. It's not good for the people who live there, and they're no less important than anyone who lives anywhere else. And it's not good for the folks that are needing help and needing services because, say a single mother with children who finds herself in this tough situation, she really doesn't need to be next to a bunch of, men who are aren't safe. So I guess so that's the concern. And the question is, what sort of conversations are being had about that, and how to equitably distribute these locations throughout our city, and is there any policy moving in that direction, or is it just kind of something that's in people's minds?
Thank you, Aaron. Great question. And I agree. Yeah, conversations have included leadership from the city councilors in talking about geographic equity in placement of new approaches, to conversations about, as we develop the matrix that I mentioned of how to site locations, bringing geographic equity and no disparate impact in one part of town into the policy matrix is another part of that. And there seems to be real consensus that that's the value. I think that it's like, as you said, it's best for people who are unhoused to have a lot of options and choices, to best meet what sort of they'll need to be successful, as well as it's best for all of our neighbors if we can spread around the impacts that result. And so I know I've been very actively looking in locations throughout the city with the idea and the aspirational goal of having options in all of the wards in Salem with that intention. The problem is one of scarcity, because then what ends up happening is what I just cringe every time something becomes available in an area that we already have things, because I'm just like, no, I really would rather open something in another part of town. And so it's something I struggle with, because you have to balance the significant need to get things open with the need for geographic equity. And so those are in conflict sometimes. But yeah, I hear you.
Gretchen.
Thank you. No, it's good. It's good to hear. Thanks.
Yeah.
Gretchen, this is Vincenzo, and I have kind of just a few, I guess, questions. And one, I don't know if you answer this or what, but is there a light at the end of the tunnel? I feel like we've been talking about these things for so long, and we tried this, we tried that, we have all these services that are happening, but it doesn't seem to really be doing much. And like, do people feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel? And on top of that, what is it that, and maybe this is, again, a policy thing that you can't do or change or whatever, but what is it that we do different in our community or in our state that others don't do, or they do something different that they don't have the situation that we're going through? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I'm just thinking about how to answer that, because there's so many.
Loaded, I know.
There's a lot of answers to the question.
Yeah.
And what'll probably happen is I'll answer a little bit, and then 2 hours from now, I'll think of more to say. I mean, it's one of those kinds of questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you want my opinion, I mean, maybe it's because I've only been at it a year, but I'm not ready to give up yet. I believe there's light at the end of the tunnel, because I still see things we haven't tried. as an example, well, I have a lot of examples, but I still see things that I think that we could do better and differently that we need to do. That will take a regional effort. It will take some different ways of people working together. And so I'm still chasing some objectives that I still believe could hold out and make a difference. Some people would be very discouraged, and other people would say there's optimism. There's people who say this has been with us for centuries and always will be, and it's getting worse. Other people would say, no, we're built for zero. We have a community committee called Built for Zero that's aiming at zero homelessness. And, you know, Salt Lake City at one point, I think reportedly did so. So, you know, maybe we can get there. The second part of your question was around things we need to do differently. Was that right?
Yeah, just meaning, you know, I know you talked about other communities and places that, you know, looking at different states. I think you said that, sorry if I missed it. But just what, you know, when you travel to certain, and I'm just an example of, I was in Arizona recently kind of thing, you know, and just not seeing exactly what we're seeing here. I know that Portland's different than Salem, but it's, you know, when I go up there, it's just a whole different landscape nowadays. And so it just, I don't know, it's just an interesting, I don't know.
Thank you. That's right. Thank you for helping me remember. Yes, I'm always interested. People send me examples of cities that have solved it or fixed it, and I'm always calming and reading for what have they done that's different. So far, what I've learned is there's a few things that are creating some issues for us that other areas have been able to overcome. Again, mental health. Oregon is ranked 50th in the nation for our investments in mental health. So think about that for a second. That's a big one because those are some of the hardest situations. You know, we used to have group homes where people could live. We deinstitutionalized that system and people lived in group homes, and then we lost most of it. There's so much work to do in the area of mental health, and that's not my area of expertise, but I can see real need in that area. Cities that have done really well have ample investment in what's called supportive housing, where we have a number of people who've been chronically homeless for so long, and we've learned that if they enter an apartment, we'll see an eviction pretty quickly follow because of a number of issues with rules and living indoors and all of the things that we might take for granted because we're used to being housed. They'll have all kinds of challenges with, and if they went into a supportive housing environment with staff on site, those services will enable them to engage them in their success. We've just opened our first one in Salem. The city was proud to open Fisher Road, which is a new supportive housing unit, but it's 34 beds. It's already got a long wait list. From what I see, cities have made, or not cities, regions have invested heavily in supportive housing units. I'm really proud of the work that's happened with the housing rental assistance program, but we need more inventory. Right now, we're limited by the number of units that I understand that we can partner with to be able to place people into in that housing first strategy, but that's also research-based and has been proven to be successful with a portion of our population. We lack a sobering center. If you have a safe place for people to sober up, if they're experiencing that public intoxication, that can become a step towards being open to receiving detoxification services and treatment, and be so much easier on our community. And so that's one of the strategies the city's been advocating for, us to have a sobering center, because that could be a beginning. We've underbuilt our affordable housing again. So I think when I look at the other cities, also that there's enforcement tools. One of the real challenges that we have is when we can very rarely compel a person to do something. And sometimes we have people that are cooperative and ready to receive help and have these conversations, and we're pretty successful. But when people really are not interested in engaging, or their trauma or health makeup is such that they are unable to engage, and we're having a lack of success in engaging, it's very difficult to compel a person to do something. The jail isn't available to us for these situations. Financial fines aren't available to us in those situations. And so we're really left without an enforcement tool. And in some areas of the country, honestly, have a different structure where they're able to legally say, well, you've got treatment or you've got incarceration, but this isn't a choice. And that's not part of what we have available to us in Oregon. Legal policy, the policy and the resource landscape don't make that available for us. And so you're left without the ability to compel a person.
Right.
You know? So
Well, I think that, and that last part kind of really just helped me. I mean, you know what I mean? There's a lot, everything you said was really great. So thank you. But that really made a lot more sense toward the end. So thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So we probably have to move on, but if the board has any additional questions, please feel free to send them to me and I will get them to Gretchen and bring them back to you.
Thank you. And I'm going to end again with an apology. I really hope we can see improvement and not a worsening of the conditions. And I'm, as a longtime Salem resident, I've been so delighted about all the wonderful improvements in vitality in the downtown over the years. And I just love it. And I'm glad for everything you're doing. And I hope that I can contribute positively towards those goals.
Thank you, Gretchen.
Yep. See you later. I'm going to sign off.
Thanks for all your work.
You bet. My pleasure. Thank you.
Gretchen is wonderful. She works so hard.
It is amazing to have that positive attitude when you're dealing with such a difficult problem. Anyway, I really appreciate what she's doing.
Yeah, it's so smart of the city to designate someone in this role too, and she's just thriving. So shall we move on to our second information report? Now that we're at 12:45 now, the budget update, Cherie?
Yes, so I sent out to all of you the budget that showed that we were balanced. It went out in your packets and then I sent it out again today. So do you all have that in front of you?
Yep.
Okay, so I had also sent you a memo that basically walked you through from the one that we were given by Callie when we first looked at the budget, where we had a $200,000 deficit going for this year and a $343,000 deficit proposed for next year. I basically went through and told you where the changes were from that budget to the one that I sent out in the packet. Does anybody have any questions about those changes that they made in the budget office to reconcile? Okay, so here's the twist. So no sooner did I get that out to you and I do my memo, Callie went to Disney World on vacation, and she comes back and says, when I was gone, the budget office made some changes to the parking fund budget. And I'm like, I already sent it out to the board, the second one. So now you're giving me a third one, but I thought it would be easier if I just had you walk through the changes on the third one off of the second one, instead of giving you another one to try to look at, because there's not that many. There's not that many. So on the budget that I got recently, when you look down at the parking permit administration, the one that used to have, what was it in the original one? Let's see. 74,240. And it was then zeroed out. Well, the new one that I got puts it back in. It puts in 62,260. And I'm assuming it's because somebody in the budget office outreach to building and safety that has the staff that run the PAC center or the permit center. And they were like, where's the money we need to process your permit request? So you would in the budget that I gave you today, you would write in where it's 0, 62, 260. Okay. The second one is the bad debt write-off. It was 22,740, and it was reduced to 10,000. So you would cross out the 22,740 and put 10,000 in. So right about now, you're wondering, okay, where does the money come from? Because I didn't go over any change in revenue. So basically, we had 162,070 in contingencies. Now we have 12,740. Oops, did I get that reversed? We did have 12,740, and now we have 162,070. So where they came up with this money is the ending balance of 198,850 was used. So the ending balance would be 0. So on yours, you would cross out 198,850 and make it 0. So that's the budget.
So what do we put in at number 3? What was it?
Number 3 is 162,070 instead of 12,740.
Thank you.
And that number is a result of taking it away from the ending balance of 198,850. So the question is, when we go to do 22, 23 next year, we typically have a beginning fund balance, and I think a 0 would mean we wouldn't have it. However, if for some reason you didn't use all the contingency, that's what you would have there. So what I'm asking for you to do today is to approve the changes in the budget that I sent out today and that was in your packet by those explanations that I just gave.
Bree, I'm doing this on my computer. Can you repeat just all 4 of them real quick?
Okay. So number 1 is on the budget you have, Vincenzo.
No, I know where it is. I just need the numbers.
Oh, it goes from 0 to 62,260.
62,260. Okay. And then the second one?
Goes from, and bad debt write-off, goes from 22,740 to 10,000.
1,000. Then the third one, I know the fourth one, 0. What's the third one again?
Yeah, the third one is, it's 12,740.
Okay, great.
Contingency, and it goes to 162,070.
162,070. Thank you.
And then the ending balance was 198, and now it's 0.
Thank you.
I move to approve as suggested for discussion
Second.
purposes.
I second.
Sorry, I was on mute. Scott, second.
So I have a question, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
Cherie, what do you think? Is this a good plan? You have any concerns?
Well, I mean, obviously they filled our gap this year, and they're filling our gap next year with American Rescue Plan Act money, which is, coming because of the impacts of COVID. And because I was worried about 22, 23 budget, I mean, 0. I've been given assurance that we have the American Rescue Plan Act money for 3 years. So it should be available to help us the next time around. I, of course, was saying, could we just give it to us now? But that's not how it works. You know, they went through and they balanced, and that's what we have. But, you know, when I got the first budget, and I'm just going to be honest with you, I had issues with making the parking tax collections. I wanted it flat, and they increased it. So, you know, there's a part of me that worries that it should have been flat, but they increased it. I also think that reducing the bad debt write-off doesn't make sense to me. But, you know, I've been given assurance that there will be funds to help us. And so I don't work in the budget office. It is balanced, and that was our big concern when we looked at it earlier. Obviously, there's a lot of things in here or that are not in here that we wanted to have in here that we'll have to address again in the future. We don't have a reserve. We have no money for economic promotion. Things that are very important to you, I know, and we'll talk about it again next year when we do the budget.
Is there any hope that the city is going to meter the downtown?
You know, Scott, that's a really good question. And I was just talking to somebody about it the other day, because I think there may be finally the perfect storm that will take the politics out of it. And it will just be a matter of the city's not going to want to take general fund money and plug us forever. And so we're going to need another model, which would be, you know, a paid parking system. I was in front of legal earlier this week because I really think that we need to prohibit residents from parking on the street like we do employees, because we're losing a lot of the on-street parking spaces because they can park. And of course, my conversation with him was, well, we wouldn't even be talking about this if you had a paid system, because if a resident wanted to park on the street, they'd pay for it. If an employee wants to park on the street, a lot of my parking issues are because we don't have a paid system too. So, and then the thing that was really fascinating is I was on a meeting with Chariots yesterday, and somebody asked me the question, why aren't you structuring your parking fees or putting in a paid system to encourage the use of mass transit or alternative modes of transportation? You know, that's what Portland does. They price their parking so expensive that you would never take your car there. You would use anything but a car when you go to Portland. I understood what the guy was saying, but that's not how, you know, that's not where we're at right now. So there could be this moment where finally, because it's so broken, we don't want the businesses to continue to pay the tax, and we want the users to be the one to contribute towards it. Finally, we can talk about it. I would love that.
Yeah, it needs to happen because the people are sick of the parking tax.
No, I know. I mean, that's a hard one for me, because it's like, what, $429 a year to have all this free parking for your customers and parking for your employees. It seems very affordable.
Yeah, normally I would accept that, but with the year that these people have had, $429 is a lot of extra money.
Well, and I think it's a good thing that this discussion is coming up as relates to this budget. I mean, the $429, like it or not, it doesn't pay for the free parking. So it's a broken system, and we need to fix it. And I mean, I know I don't want us to get too off track on approving this budget, but it is relevant. And I mean, I feel like we need to keep like attach a little memo to every single budget we suggest to the agency board that says, we think we need to add meters.
Well, we
Just
have
attach that
a
to our
lot of
budget.
new
Just
counselors.
every time they hear from us.
We have a lot of new counselors, and I was thinking, obviously, we have a new counselor for downtown, Counselor Stapleton. I'm going to talk to Kristen to see if she would join us, because she doesn't know us. And we can, and you know, you guys, we can highlight those things, just like what you're talking about, Aaron, that have been at the top of your list, that you want to share with her as the advisory board.
Perfect.
Anything else, Scott?
No, that's my wine for right now.
Okay. You get one.
Oh, come on.
Well,
So Josh,
yeah.
are you going to call the vote?
yeah, let's call the vote. And the motion on the floor again is to approve the amended budget. And I think Scott seconded it, Aaron brought it forward. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Not in favor,
Aye.
say nay. Motion carries. All right, moving on. UGM Saffron Development Update. And I know that we have Eunice Kim on the line. I don't want to go out of order. Do we need to, Cherie, because of the timing of this? I don't want to miss out on
I wanted to just say something about item B, the URA budget.
Okay.
So what I gave you is everything that you know and have seen and have asked for, but I added downtown enhancements of 200,000. And I added that because there's things that are artsy types of things, opportunities that might come up that will not fit within our capital grant program guidelines. They're not eligible. It wouldn't be something we'd put in streetscape. So I wanted to have some money to support those types of projects. So I put it in here. Does anybody have an issue with me putting it in here or any thoughts?
Cherie,
Yes.
so I think you were at the design committee from Salem Main Street recently that were Christy from the Rivers, the condominiums, that she met with us and was talking about doing this amazing mural on the back of the Rivers. Has anybody else heard about this? It would look like a great big huge bookshelf. I mean, that was amazing. But of course, trying to find funding are you thinking that this would be something where somebody could potentially have some support? Is that what this is?
Yes, that would be a perfect example, Linda. If that moved forward, because murals are not grant eligible. I think we would all agree having something on that huge canvas on the side of the Rivers, because remember, murals aren't allowed on historic buildings. So we have very few opportunities. You could see it from West Salem coming over. It would be amazing, just amazing. But I'm sure something like that I don't know what it would cost, but yes, that's exactly what it would be for.
So just to let everybody know on the board, Christy she lives in the Rivers and she's working with her own, the owners, and would be seeking funds, but she's already gone through a lot of hoops of meeting with the Arts Commission, and because it's not just about doing the mural, it's about maintaining it. And so there's all these rules and regulations. And recently I met with Kimberly from Historic, trying to see if we can get the tribes around getting the last alley number 9 named. And so I discovered also in our meeting that she actually had to work with the tribes to see what kind of things could go in the artwork of the mural that could represent the tribes. And so she's doing some amazing work to make this be potentially happen and be an amazing piece that would be worthy of people coming to visit. So anyway, just to let you know if anyone hadn't heard about it. That would be great. I would say, yes, we want to put it in the budget.
Okay, thank you.
Exciting project or prospect.
Okay, so UGM South Farm redevelopment update. So I have people higher than me are still trying to figure out what would be the best way to do this. RFQ, and Josh, thank you for sending us the Vancouver. Obviously, that's a little bit different than ours, but still an RFQ versus an RFP. RFQ doesn't require anywhere near the same level of time or energy for somebody to respond to it. You turn around and you basically do a development agreement and lay out what you would have for those specifics more in an RFP versus an RFP. I'm supposed to get guidance on the preference of which way to go in May. So I will let you know. I pretty much have the RFP ready to go. So it'd be easy for me to take it and put it in an RFQ. I had a staff report queued up to kind of go through what we're doing. And I've been asked to put it on the back burner so that there can be more discussions as to the preferred way to do it. So I just wanted to let you know that.
Does everyone know the difference between the Q and the P?
I'm glad you asked, Aaron. I did not. So I have been researching it and getting all kinds of documentation to help me understand the differences. And so today I found something that was pretty simple and it was kind of like, okay, now I'm getting it. So, but I would love to hear if you want to run it down, because I think it's important for even those of us that might know it, have a little more clarity.
So Aaron, do you want to educate since you brought it up?
I'll do my best. You could probably do better than I can. But basically, the Q stands for qualification. So you're requesting developers or groups to send you their qualifications. So, you know, their financial capabilities, their experience of doing similar projects, their team, the people that you'd be working with. So you basically see, oh yeah, these folks are very qualified, and we're going to pick the most qualified team. The P, the RFP, would be request for proposals. So you're asking for a full proposal. So its qualifications will be part of it, but it's also very specific. Like they're going to show you, here's the things we're asking for, here's what we want to build, here's how we're going to design it, and et cetera, et cetera. You know, the level of detail is dependent on what's in that RFP, you know, what you ask for. But anyway, you're asking for a proposal that's, you know, specific. And so then you're picking the team that you think is going to give you the best. You're kind of picking the project as much as you're picking the team. But that project that proposal would include, that's a ton of work for that team to put together, right? And they don't even know if they're going to get the project. So you run the risk of either not getting very many people proposing because it's too much work, and then they might not even get it. You also run, or the risk that you get, you know, just a handful of sort of half-baked ideas that don't end up really happening anyway because it wasn't that realistic. So I see where there's I see where there's a, you know, a debate on which route would be better. The request for qualifications is definitely a lot easier for the folks putting it together, and so you might have better success at getting a lot to choose from.
Well, part of that came out of, we had, you know, we invited some people to a Zoom meeting, the property owners and representatives of Penny's and Salem Center and Rite Aid and Nordstrom's and Liberty Plaza. We wanted to hear from them. And then we also wanted to get a sense of the role that we could play. And then we turned around and basically, and we had developers on there too. Capstone, Edge, we had some developers on there too. So we turned around and then did separate one-on-one meetings with them, because during the midst of the bigger meeting, they had made, comments about difficulty and things that how they wanted to select what they responded to. So then we followed up with them, and, some of them do not have staff. They have to fee out, renderings, they have to fee out market study, they have to fee out everything, which then just made us pause and kind of step back and think about the best approach to do this, because a lot of them were very good companies or developers that we would love to have respond, but we want to make sure that they would, depending on what we did. So I won't take up any more of your time, but wanted to let you, keep you, as I know this is of interest. I get asked about this all the time. A lot of it from developers who are anxious actually to come in and look at that site with us or partner with us on that site. But I really appreciate, Aaron, you providing the context of the difference. But I know Eunice is on there, and we want to make sure we give her time to talk.
Super quick, so if they're debating between which kind of proposal to put out, that means there's still a lot of work. Even if they picked one today, there'd still be a couple months for legal and all that before the RFP's even out?
Actually, that's a good question too, because an RFQ doesn't go through the same process as an RFP. Not at all, which is the other benefit to me. It's just, I've put so much, work into the other, but it's okay. I can, take it out and put it into something simpler, but no, it's not as onerous with an RFQ. But good question.
And I know we need to make room for Eunice's report, but I just wanted to clarify with the RFQ, eliminating all the assumptions is critical. And so knowing that is the assumption or condition of the property before RFP or RFQ that the building is demolished, the city has all the reports ready to provide whoever applies?
Again, we can do the RFQ and still move forward with taking down those buildings. We put the money in the budget next year. I mean, the big difference is that you choose them based on their qualifications, and then you work through what you want them to put into it versus you say, this is what I want in it, and they give you a proposal with all that in there. They don't necessarily give me that. We work on developing that together.
Right, I understand that part. I just wanted to be sure that the city was planning to demolish and have the site be shovel ready for interested parties.
Again, our goal was to have the buildings taken down. That's why we put the money in the budget. Okay. But as you know, those decisions come from they come from agency, board, or council. Just like
understood.
RFQ, RFP. So
thanks, Reed.
Thanks, Josh.
I think we're ready for Eunice. She's been waiting there patiently for the R. Salem update. Kick it away, Eunice.
Thanks. I talk really quickly, so it's totally fine. So I'm Eunice Kim, Long Range Planning Manager, City of Salem. My colleague Austin is here with me. He's working on the R. Salem project as well. And I just wanted to give a quick update of where we are. Can I share my screen? Hold on, let me just check. Okay. Where we are with the R. Salem project. So just kind of as a reminder, the R. Salem project is a project update or comprehensive plan. That's really the goals, policies, and map that guide how we grow and develop in the future. There's a lot of components and pieces to that, and I'll kind of talk about that today. So just, again, another reminder that we're planning for not just growth in the city limits, the black dashed line, but our portion of the urban growth boundary, which is the gray line here. So you've all seen a lot of growth and development in the last few years, and so we're trying to plan for that growth. So we reached a major milestone in the project in March, where we took all of the input from the community through our visioning phase over the last year and a half, 2 years, and really rolled that up into goals as well as a proposed comprehensive plan map. And so we brought that document to the city council kind of as a check-in and to say, will you accept this? are we headed in the right direction? Is this the framework, the high level framework we should be working under as we kind of move into the details? And so it wasn't a formal adoption process. Nothing's final or set in stone, but it does set the framework for kind of our future work. And so City Council did accept that. And so now we're diving into all those details. The details include a draft zoning map, changes to the zoning code, and policies. I'm going to focus on some of the policies now, but I'll let you know how you can participate in the rest of it. And I should just note, part of the zoning code work is actually creating some new zones, including some of the zones that came out of the North Downtown Code Cleanup Project led by Urban Development that focused on the downtown and North Downtown area. So we are going to incorporate that into this project. And so if you have questions on that, let me know. So I'm going to just go over some of the policy ideas we have related to kind of jobs and the economy, as well as equity engagement. It's a very small slice of the hundreds and hundreds of ideas we have, both in the vision document already, in the appendix, as well as new ideas that we've been gathering from other cities. So when it comes to equity engagement, it's something that we care a lot about, and we've heard a lot from the community that's really a priority, and you'll see kind of equity throughout our draft policies, but I just wanted to show a couple of them. And the first one is really all about our process of how we do engagement. And, you know, should we be expanding opportunities for folks that aren't really always at the table or typically at the table when we make decisions around planning and investment, whether that's communities of color or lower income communities. And then the second idea you see is really about the impacts of our decision making. So when we make decisions, are we considering and should we be considering kind of who's benefiting from that and who maybe is burdened from that, whether it's transportation or even like programs, incentives, et cetera. And then this first idea here on this slide is really all about making sure that the meetings that we have and the materials that we have are accessible to everyone. That could include translating things, having like an ASL interpreter at our meetings, making sure we have remote options and in-person options, changing the time of day, changing the venues, just really creating all the opportunities for people to participate. And the second idea you see here is really about the city going out to the groups that we really want to engage and asking them, what is the best way to engage? How do you want to participate in the process? And really tailoring our approach to folks based on their input. So when it comes to jobs and the economy, we have a lot of draft policies. Shri helped on these as well as other in urban development, so thank you. I didn't list the downtown one, but there is one specific to enhancing the downtown as kind of the regional destination mixed use center that it is today, and kind of making sure that continues. And so we do have a draft policy on the downtown specifically, as well as continuing to encourage housing in the downtown and around the downtown. But the other ideas we've heard kind of throughout our outreach is that folks want to be able to start businesses in their home and really have live work space. And so we have a policy idea about encouraging that. The second idea is that a lot of folks have told us that in order to, have a working family, we just don't have enough childcare options in the city to support that, as well as just folks who want to start a childcare business. And so should we have a policy that really helps to increase access to childcare by, through the zoning, for example, allowing it more broadly in the community? Job training and career technical schools is all about supporting businesses and supporting folks and making sure that maybe we support training programs that align with the jobs that are out there or that could be out there in the future. I know that Urban Development does a lot of work supporting job training programs, and so this is kind of continuing that. Economic resilience is also kind of an idea that I know, again, Urban Development is working on in terms of recovery from the pandemic, for example. But should we have a policy that basically stresses the fact that we should be working on making sure that our businesses, for example, can respond and recover from changes from natural disasters and other kind of major catastrophes. And then the second one is really kind of related to regulations. We hear it a lot in planning that developers want to be able to open their businesses, build, do an addition, et cetera. So making sure that our processes and our regulations really are efficient and equitable to really support economic growth. So that was like super quick. But we're doing a lot of outreach on policies, both online. We have some surveys, as well as through some weekly meetings. And we're trying to make sure that, we don't have big holes in our policies. And so that's one of the reasons we're reaching out also to look what other communities are doing. Do they have some good ideas that we could be incorporating here in Salem? So we'll be doing all that work for the next couple months, and then revising our policies, and then bringing them back through the process. So our survey is online. It's in English and in Spanish. This is City of Salem. Sorry, my daughter just walked in. cityofsalem.net/rsalem. And again, we're having weekly meetings, and they're every Wednesday at noon and at 5:30. Same material at both. We've already done community engagement, equity, housing, economic development, transportation. And so next week's parks and recreation. And so we're doing some kind of fun interactive polling to gauge people's interest in different ideas. And then again, there's the survey. So we're going to do those every Wednesday through the end of May. So that's kind of the policy side of things, but there's a lot of other work going on. I know there's a lot of interest in zoning, and are we going to be changing people's zoning? What does that mean? What are the regulations? And so we have a new interactive map that we hope to launch online next week, where you'll be able to go on a property, see for proposing changes. It'll take you to either the actual zone code language or an overview of a new zone. So again, we're proposing to create several new zones, including revisions to the CB zone that would collapse essentially the central business district zone with the overlay that exists. And so one of the things we heard out of that North Downtown Code Update project is that we should simplify. And so we are proposing to simplify and extend, for example, our mixed use zone. So you can turn on and off overlays. You can drop comments. Did we get it right? Would you rather change it to something else? So again, when that's out, I'll send out some emails and let everyone know. And then the last thing we're doing is we have a zoning subcommittee made up of planning commissioners and city councilors. And their first meeting is next Friday, April 30th, 12 to 2. And they are focused on greenhouse gas emissions reductions through changes to zoning. So that could include increasing how tall buildings can be, increasing how dense they can be, how many units, for example, you can get on a property, looking at parking reductions. So they're going to be meeting at least 3 times over the next few months to focus on specific options to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So that's just me. My contact information, reach out anytime. One of the things on our project website that we just put up are those zoning overviews of new zones. So if you're interested in terms of what are you talking about when you're saying mixed use 3, we don't have that zone, or a neighborhood hub, we've put some overviews online now. The map will link to it once that interactive map is done, but those overviews are already online if you want to check them out. Super fast, quick, but that was it. Questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
So I know there's been a lot of concern from the development community and the private property holders in town. Specifically, an illustration that was provided to me was if a building in its current use under its current zoning burns down, is it allowed to be built again in its place? So what are you doing to address the development and building communities, and that's the business communities, concerns on the project?
Sure. Yes, we do hear that question quite a lot, particularly when we're creating a new zone or putting a zone, changing a zone. And so the way that we've been doing that in recent years is through something that we called continued use, continued development. So basically, if you're there and you were legal, and the reason that you are no longer permitted use or your development doesn't meet all of the regulations of height or setback, you can still rebuild. And so it's a new type of provision that we've been putting in our zones and will continue to do moving forward. So you can see those in some of our zones. It's not in all of our zones, but it's something that we're working on actively.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Linda,
And I should,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was going to ask you, Eunice, what kind of response are you getting with your surveys? Are you getting some significant numbers, or is it fairly limited? I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, I think this current survey maybe only has like 70 or 80. it is a lengthy survey. And some of our surveys, like on our neighborhood hub, we had like 700 or something. So it kind of depends on people's level of interest. I do think we'll get a lot of comments on our zoning map once that goes up. But we know survey is not the best way for everyone. That's why we're kind of out and about at all of these community groups. Like we have some youth forums specific for youth that start this Saturday. We're having all types of meetings with like our communities of color in different languages. So our survey is just kind of one way of outreach, but yeah. So if you can help spread the word, that'd be great.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, again, it's always so hard to get people to participate sometimes. You know, you'll hear complaints, but then they say, well, I never heard about, a survey. And so I appreciate the work that you're doing and going out and then also doing online. But I know that I've worked on some of the surveys, but I haven't noticed any to come across. So I haven't read all the way down through some newsletter of the cities to make sure that I'm getting it. So I'll check that out. Thank you.
Great. And we are going to be mailing out, I guess like postcards to property owners that would be impacted by changes and tenants. And so we're actually working on that now so that as soon as we get that out, they'll have an opportunity to weigh in. Sometimes people are just calling us, right? We get some folks that don't do a computer and they'll just call us, which is fine as well.
Can we get that list of dates and times for the meetings that you were talking about every Wednesday? Is that what it was?
Mm-hmm. I can send that to Sheree. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I would add that all those dates and times are on the project website. So you can even just go to cityofsalem.net and search for the words Our Salem in the search bar and you'll get to the right place. And so we have info about all the stuff that's going on there.
And I know this isn't like my project, but the climate action plan work is happening as well. And so we're coordinating a lot with them in terms of trying to figure out strategies versus policies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And I know parking came up, and so I'm just gonna tag onto that if I can. The consultant team, we just actually met this morning. There are 10 different ideas that the climate action plan is going to work on doing a cost benefit analysis on. And one of those ideas is looking at charging for parking to reduce parking in the central business district and other employment areas. And so I know they're in the process of kind of defining what that looks like and then kind of analyzing how that works in terms of greenhouse gas emissions and the costs associated. Again, that's not my project, that's Patricia Farrell. I just thought I would throw it out there because that work is happening.
Did you hear that one, Scott?
I got it. I'm happy. Barely.
Are there any other questions for Eunice or Austin? I know this is a seriously impressive lift for everyone down there at the city. So thank you. And thank you for making efforts to keep everyone else engaged as stakeholders throughout the spectrum. So thank you for your work. I know we got 4 minutes left here.
Yes.
Unless there's any other questions, we always end our meetings with a fun what's happening downtown. And it's usually a fun event. So you guys can hang out with us if you want, if you know what's going on downtown.
So do you want me to talk about what's happening?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so, and I also would love to hear from a couple of you. So I had a conversation this week with, Rebecca and I did with Becky George, because we were curious as to when events or when people could start applying for permits for events. And we were told Memorial Day, after Memorial Day, that's when they're going to be open for permits. I know Vincenzo is passionate about the amphitheater. And so I asked about that too, because.
Yeah, I've been emailing her a lot. So
no, she said it. She said it. And I said, well, I have a board member over in Vincenzo. He emails me weekly. Okay, great. Yeah. Well, you know, the deal.
Definitely on their radar. I can tell you that.
You are on their radar. but they don't have policies yet. So her and the assistant public work director, they're working on those. And again, I think the goal is July is what, I think that's what she told Rebecca and I. Rebecca, is that right? I think it was July. I think it was July. And
Yeah,
so
July.
Great. And then she also mentioned that the International Ironman event is scheduled to touch here July 25th. Of course, that will be subject to them being able to meet whatever the governor's COVID restriction requirements are. And then we also heard that there's a tackle crawl type of event that someone's looking at doing in the middle of July. Also, we are working, Erin's amazing to work with, probably just like Linda was saying this morning, Hazel is quite the recruiter. He's been working with us on designing a platform in lieu of the tents and things that you see on street. Basically, the goal would be to have an actual program that we roll out in the fall. We don't want to do it, even if all the restrictions get lifted, we want to make sure that the businesses have as much time as possible on street for expanded seating. But the goal is to have some options for platform designs so we can have a consistent look in downtown, and they meet all the requirements that the city has for use of those on-street parking spaces. The program would be, you know, something where you would have a permit for a year. You know, we've had no fees associated with it now. There'd probably be some type of fee. And then there'd probably be some type of conditions where you can't be open just one meal, you know, a day. You would need to be open for more than one meal. You need to be open for more than 2 days. I mean, you know, things like that. I haven't really given too much thought to it because we've been working on the design, but just know that's coming, or that we're working on that.
Sorry to butt in. I know there's a cost to that, and there is funds appropriated for businesses to take advantage of downtown for COVID restrictions. Will funds be made available for businesses for platforms as part of that program?
Well, I think that that is an amazing question, Josh, because, you know, we certainly have in next year's budget the COVID business grant kind of thing. Yeah. And we could make it eligible under that. Or we were just talking about downtown enhancements. You know, it could possibly fall underneath that. Haven't really thought much about it, but I think the goal would be to have a way to support that, if possible. So wanted to let you know about that. Rebecca is going in front of the agency board next month because we've just received a lot of inquiries on the strategic grant. A lot of people want to put up fencing. A lot of people want to do trash enclosure. They want to do exterior lighting, improvements that help with crime prevention, safety and security. So we're out of money. So she's going in to ask for some of the capital grant money to be put over in the strategic grant program so we could keep that going. But I'm interested in actually more from you guys. You know, Charles, do you want to share about 990?
Yeah, I mean, we are trucking right along. You know, the materials are kind of delayed here and there. And so I don't have my metal stairs yet to give everybody a fun tour of the inside or any cute pictures, but those are any day now. So I'm looking forward to that, so we don't have to stare at the outside. But we have 65 people on the wait list. When I last checked about 2 weeks ago. So we anticipate that it will be occupied quickly at time of delivery.
Yeah, 23 units and 65 people that want them.
There you go.
Better than that.
Yeah, we'll take it.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah.
Great work. That's awesome.
That is, that helps every new potential project in downtown to hear that there's that level of activity. So that is really great news. So Vincenzo, what's going on with you?
So we are in July 11th, we're trying to get that amphitheater because we have some Broadway guests coming in. We're doing a 4-day intensive with an organization called Broadway Dreams, and they bring active Broadway performers to the community to do workshops and training for our youth. And also actually people of all ages. We have, I think the youngest is 9 right now and the oldest is 45. It's pretty exciting. We got 2 people actually that just finished, Frozen. Frozen's done now on Broadway, but the first female Olaf is going to be here, and the second Kristoff, and then we have a director choreographer that's coming who is choreographer for So You Think You Can Dance. So we're really excited about that opportunity. We have kids from out of state as well, so we're hoping to it's going to be a nice kind of boost in terms of our local economy with heads and beds and restaurants and all that stuff. And we're working with Travel Salem to put packets together for those out of town guests, so the parents have something to do, while the kids are working. And then so we're hoping the amphitheater is going to happen for that, because I think it's going to be a really beautiful event to do that and kind of launch stuff going on there. And then we're actually still looking for kind of an outdoor venue. We're doing a Midsummer Night's Dream this summer for high school and college students. So if you guys have we want it to be site specific, so we don't really want it on a stage. So we're just trying to find some kind of woods or something magical, fairyland to do it at. So let me know if you guys have any ideas with that. Just send me an email. But and then we'll have our camps in August. So we're moving forward.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So Tyson, I understand that getting an appraisal is almost impossible because you guys are so busy. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
So that's good news for you.
We're probably giving turn times of into July at this point for reports. So be patient if you need a commercial appraisal. And then if it's a farm, it's probably into August or September. So it's been crazy. But I guess the only update I would give, I don't want to steal your thunder, Linda, but I checked in about the Cozon State building, and they have about 60 units that are occupied so far. And so I think they've been leasing them for about 3 months, if that's right. But
not even that. They started the second week of March, so it's really only been so getting close to 6. They had hoped to start March 1st, but it didn't really happen until about 10 days later. And I have heard, just to add on, that they are getting a lot of calls from people, students for Willamette University who will start coming in June and July. So they're really moving along much faster than they even expected.
That is good news. Well, you were on my list, Linda, so thank you for that. So Aaron, amphitheater, is July realistic?
Sorry, I must sign out. I'm sorry.
Hi, Josh. Yeah, I think so. The structure is done. They're just doing what will be the stage platform now, concrete work, site work, moving dirt around, and also the AV electric room there. And then they'll be doing landscaping and they'll be done with construction. The big question is really going to be, it's going to be up to the city to let folks out there before the grass is really established. So that's really going to be the big issue, is that everything will be done. People will be like, why can't we go out there? And it'll just be up to whoever at the parks or whoever it is that makes that decision to say, all right, we don't really want people trampling this grass that's just trying to grow, but so that, yes, July is realistic. It's just pending growing grass.
Well, sorry that we went over time. We lost Josh. So Linda, you get to close the meeting. But you're muted.
do I need to take a vote on that, or do I just say that unless there's anything else, the meeting is adjourned?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope everybody has a good afternoon.